Protesters are disturbing a lynch mob. Vacation is appropriate for killer cops. Chief of police is responsible. Disgrace.
Disagree. Disagree.
Disagree.
Sort of.
Justice now! No! For Kelly Thomas!
Get justice. I went to the back of my car. I have a sticker from Joy and Mitchell. They were beat to death in the court of public opinion because they never got a trial. They were killed actually by smoke inhalation. The sheriff deputy set the fire to get even my grandfather's own son. He witnessed the cops. Hi, this is William Wagner. We're down at Fullerton Police Department where a protest is taking place today, Saturday morning. The father of Kelly Thomas, Ron Thomas, is here for an interview, and people started gathering actually before 9 a.m., though it wasn't supposed to start to 10. Mr. Thomas, can you tell us something about your son, what he was like growing up, and what do you feel about the way he was killed? Cut 1,200 uploads about all kinds of injustices all over the country. What I want to ask you is some background questions, and then how you found out, and what was your reaction when you initially heard your son was dead. So are we ready to roll? We're rolling. Okay, we're rolling. We're here with Ron Thomas, correct?
Yes.
You're the biological father of Kelly Thomas?
Yeah, I am.
What were you doing when you first heard that your son had been killed?
Well, I was sleeping. It's 3:30 in the morning. My daughter had called me, and in a frantic, hysteric tone, of course, and told me that Kelly was in the hospital and he was expected to die.
What did you think at that moment?
Well, I really didn't know what to think other than I had to get to the hospital real quick, so that's what I did.
You didn't know that police were responsible for his death?
No, not for several hours later. When I first walked in and seen him, I thought maybe he got in with the, or was encountered by the wrong type of gangbangers, you know, and they just beat him senselessly with baseball bats, perhaps. That's how bad he looked. It wasn't until maybe 4 or 5 hours later I found out that the Fullerton police did this to him.
Now, you used to work for the Orange County Sheriff's Department?
That's correct, yeah.
6 years, but you left that to go into contracting?
That's correct, yeah.
In your training, when you were trained as a police officer, did the way your son look like something that should result from trained police officers?
Well, not at all. And another part of the irony is, as a martial arts master, I have taught for years many police officers arrest and control techniques. This isn't what you do to arrest somebody.
Have you seen the videotape they won't release?
No, I have not.
What do you think it's going to show?
It's going to show the initial encounter. It's going to show everything except what we all want to see, the actual blows that killed him.
You think they're going to erase those blows from the tape?
No, I don't. But according to many witnesses, the officer conveniently turned his back to the camera, shielding the view of my son's head during his actions.
There was a report that his eyeballs were literally beat out of his head. Is that factual, or is that?
I've never heard anything like that. I will tell you that his left eye was so badly beat up that they couldn't open it for 3 days until the swelling went down.
And then he died on the 5th day?
Well, yeah. If it wasn't for the machines and medicines, he would have died certainly that night. His body was failing from the moment he was brought into the hospital, and it just progressively kept failing.
Have you spoke to any of the witnesses that observed the beating?
Oh, many witnesses, and I've given those accounts to the district attorney investigator, to the FBI, to my attorneys, making sure everybody knows what's going on so we can investigate it.
What do you think would be the proper punishment for the officers, at least the ones that were actually beating him?
It's going to be a variety of charges, and I know that some are going to be lesser, but the main guy that was actually beating my son's head in, I see this as a hate crime against the homeless and mentally ill. So I'm looking at special circumstances, a murder. I'm looking at the death penalty, and quite frankly, I'll pull the switch.
You'd like to be there to pull the switch when he's convicted?
Yeah. That's what my son was asking for help, crying out my name, and that's the least I can do for my son.
Does this change how you feel about most police officers?
It does indeed. It absolutely does. Yeah.
You used to be a police officer.
Yeah, I did. A deputy in Orange County. Yeah. Now, I realize, of course, that not all cops are bad, but, something tragic has happened to me, to the whole family, and certainly to Kelly. And I do look at things differently, a lot differently, where I've never condoned brutal action by police officers at all. I've just had it with police for now.
Have any of the police officers or their families made any attempt to apologize to you?
Oh, no, not at all. There's no contact at all. They can't make any contact with me, this kind of thing. So.
Here's my license plate. Thank you, sir.
Go ahead, say that again.
Yeah. No, none of the police officers have tried to contact me necessarily. I have had some disturbing emails sent to me. The FBI is checking into those. But no, they won't try and contact me.
Are you glad you're not a police officer today?
Yeah, it'd be very hard to do my job the way I would have to do it. Being a cop is not an easy job. There's no doubt about that. They do get in fights. They have a horrible job sometimes, but then again, on other times it's very gratifying. But the bottom line is this group of rogue officers did not follow the right policies and procedures or the methods for arrest and control.
What do you think the punishment for the police officer that stood by and allowed the beating to take place without trying to stop the other officer? What do you think his culpability, what should his punishment be?
Well, that's accessory to murder. Absolutely, for not stopping a murder in their presence, as bound by law to do. Not only that, a police officer sworn to protect and to serve did nothing for my son. An absolute accessory to murder.
Supposing some of the onlookers that are now witnesses had stepped forward and attacked the police officer that was doing the beating to stop them, do you believe they would have been justified to grab that cop, take him down, take his weapon away from him?
Well, certainly. I do. I mean, there's a line. I mean, there's an absolute line. An officer doing his job, and somebody committing a murder. And I honestly feel it's every citizen's right and obligation to do that. Now, what would have happened? They would have all been beat up, if not killed themselves, maybe even shot with a gun, not just a taser. You know, all that would have happened. And quite frankly, that's why they didn't step in, scared to death.
Should the citizens be that scared to stop a police officer who's murdering somebody who's already on the ground?
In the city of Fullerton, yes, because they will all turn on the citizens. You know, there was a second officer on top of my son, stepped in to handcuff him as his head was being beaten in. And instead of stopping the officer who was doing that and saying, hey, I'll take over, you know, because this guy's obviously lost in the moment or whatever his thing was, he was getting my son's blood splattered on him. And that was an inconvenience to him. So he got up and quit trying to handcuff my son because of the amount of blood getting on him. That's an accessory to first-degree murder.
So he should get the same punishment, death.
Yeah, well, at least absolute life without parole.
Had you been there, your son was calling out, Dad. I saw a video on YouTube. Your son was saying, Dad, 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 help me. Had you been there, would you have attacked the police officers?
I would have died that night. Yeah.
And then the story would have been father and son attacked police officers.
Yeah, regardless, I would have done what I could for my son. Yeah, I don't care about stories. He needed me, he needed somebody to step in. I would have died for him that night.
Why wasn't he at home? Why was he homeless?
It's the disease schizophrenia, and my daughter put it best. He was never homeless. He had more homes than any of us can imagine having. He had mine, his mother's, all the relatives, brothers, sisters, friends. He would not stay in anybody's home. He wanted to be on the streets. And I have found this is what schizophrenic people want to do. They don't want to sleep in a bed. They'll sleep on a floor. They want to sleep outside. It's a horrible, horrible disease. So all the people out there saying, where were they? You know, it's just, you know, where's the mom and dad? All this kind of stuff. It's not that easy at all. It's a horrible thing to go through. He
just wanted to be free and go out and do his own thing on the street. Didn't want to stay there?
Absolutely. Over 18, not a harm to himself or others, not causing a crime. He's a free citizen in the United States. That's what we stand for. And there's nothing anybody can do about it.
There's a rumor out there that the police got a call that somebody was trying to break into cars. Do you think that was your son?
Well, first of all, I think it was a rumor. Police reports have not substantiated anything going on like that, other than a call came in. There's nothing to indicate that there were burglaries that night in any cars. Witness statements don't substantiate it at all. Let's just say there was. In fact, let's say my son had stolen property on him. He resisted, he ran. I'll give all that to him. I don't care. What's the bottom line? They tried to apprehend him from the neck up, and the method they chose was absolute beating, brutal beating to accomplish an arrest. Wrong on so many levels.
How many years do you think it'll take before we'll ever see that video or see this go to a trial, if it ever goes to a trial?
It's going to go to trial, and I expect it to happen fairly quick. Actually, within a year.
Within a year?
Yeah. I'm doing what I can to get it pushed to a federal level, take it out of the hands of the district attorney's office, and I'm very confident it will accelerate the process.
Are you familiar with the Andrea Nelson murder?
I am indeed.
Did she get justice?
No.
Did Tony Racalcos do a proper investigation in that case?
No. No. And in fact, has he ever done a proper investigation as far as that goes concerning police officers with this kind of crime? You know.
So with that kind of a district attorney, do you really think he'll really bring murder charges against any of these police officers?
I don't expect it. I had a one-on-one interview with Tony Racalcos. I don't expect it at all. I expect maybe involuntary manslaughter at the most from Racalcos. That's why I wanted to go to a federal level.
Involuntary manslaughter? I mean, they were actively beating him with a club.
Well, you talk about Tony Racalcos, though.
Yeah. So you have no faith in the district attorney of Orange County?
I don't at all. I don't at all.
Neither does Andrea Nelson's mother have any faith in. Why do you think he failed? You were a sheriff deputy for 6 years. Did you know Mike Corona?
I did.
Did you know anything that should have sent him to prison long before he was sent to prison?
No, I don't know anything about that.
Did you read your Orange County grand jury report on Mike Corona?
I did. I did. He had a lot of things in his closet, you know, a lot of things. And actually, I wasn't a deputy during his term, but still, like everybody else, I heard what the media had to offer about him.
Do you think he got off lightly? I'm talking about Mike Corona.
I didn't really follow it. You know, quite honestly, I don't know what he got. I don't know his status.
I understand there was over 100 charges and they only put him in jail for one charge.
Well, then I'd say he got off very lightly. Very lightly. You know, and it's a shame. The man seemed like he was man of the year across the nation, you know, America's sheriff. I mean, it just larger than life kind of image. He's a fantastic man, and evidently he succumbed to the, I don't know if it was the position, the popularity, what happened to him. But
do you think it was proper for his wife to have the contract with the jail canteen for all the stuff that gets sold in there? Even after charges came forward, I understand Mike Corona's wife still kept the contract.
yeah, I mean, that's an absolute conflict of interest. You can't have that. Nothing to do with anything that associates with money. If it's volunteer time, completely non-profit, whatever, well, okay, that's different. But when you're running a business for the organization your husband is the head of, complete conflict of interest.
Do you think Mike Corona's girlfriend, I don't know if you were familiar with his girlfriend, that she had any secret money dealings with the sheriff's department?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time in your interview, and I give you my, my condolences for your son. It's a tragic thing. It shouldn't have happened. And we'll be following this case. We'll be back here again. Thank you very much, Mr. Thomas.
I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm William Wagner here with the father of Kelly Thomas on a Saturday, August 20th, isn't it? August 20th, 2011. We'll see if this Tony Rackauckus, who wouldn't indict Mike Corona, the ex-sheriff who's now doing time in federal prison allegedly, we'll see if this Tony Rackauckus will actually bring criminal charges against any of the 6 police officers from the Fullerton Police Department. I should tell you, I've also asked the Fullerton Police Department if they would give me a statement on camera, and they've declined to say anything or give out any information that isn't already published, including the photographs of the 6 officers. I'm William Wagner here in Fullerton. Stay tuned.